The default setting in my brain is always assuming that the person who is in my life will eventually leave my life.
Hey beautiful people, how you are doing today? It's your girl Destiny here and welcome back to my channel. How you are doing? Hope you guys are doing great. So today's video, it is a very interesting video as always. I just did the reaction and it's amazing. Anyway, this video is a video of a sister who came online to share a story about how an anxious attachment style got her dumped. So apparently this sister came to share the story of how she found out that she has an anxious attachment style and how she was very anxious, jealous, things she did in the relationship to push her partner away, and eventually because of those things where she tried to create artificial situation to make her partner to always give her words of affirmation and let her know this is who he is, he's not going anywhere, just to reassure her that he's going to be there for her because she had anxious attachment style. And eventually, it got to the point where, as she was playing this artificial situation, she asked them to break up. And this man said, go on, let's break up because I'm tired too. Anyway, guys, this story kind of resonates so much with me because I'll say I have my own anxious attachment style story, which I'm going to share towards the end of the video, and you want to watch it. So let's go check out what this sister have to say as story time, and then we'll come back.
Default setting in my brain is always assuming that the person who is in my life will eventually leave my life. I married the first boy I ever loved. I had one other significant relationship prior to meeting Anthony. You can hear more about that in a previous Get Ready With Me video. So Anthony was only the third other man that I'd ever had a significant relationship with. 6 months after we started dating, he broke up with me. Well, why did he dump you? The first incident took place in New York City. Anthony and I were out to dinner with one of my old friends and her husband. She is extremely beautiful, tall, lean, very sophisticated, as you can probably tell from my description. I was a little insecure. My initial insecurity turned into outright jealousy when she started to talk about her experience as a track and field athlete in high school. If you don't already know, Anthony is obsessed with running. He's a sub-3 marathoner. They start talking about running nonstop. I reached over and I put my hand on Anthony's lap, hoping that he would reciprocate or at least take my hand. He didn't. I took that as a sign that he was far more interested in this beautiful, gorgeous, skinny track and field star than he was with his actual girlfriend. Maybe a normal girl would have simply said to Anthony afterwards, hey, I was a little insecure. I felt a little jealous. Can we talk about it? But no, keep in mind, this is only the third relationship with a man I'd ever been in. My first relationship, I was in that relationship for 18 years. All my formative years were invested in that relationship. For all intents and purposes, when I started dating Anthony, I was practically a teenager when it came to navigating a romantic relationship. I'd learned a lot about red flags and what to avoid in a partner, but I'd never had to deal with jealousy before. Instead of talking to him and simply telling him honestly how I felt about the whole situation, I gave him the silent treatment. I basically didn't talk to him for the rest of the night into the next day. This behavior from me wasn't new. It was actually a pattern of behavior that I undertook anytime I was upset with Anthony. Most of the time, I got upset with Anthony because something he did made me feel insecure. From Anthony's perspective, he just knew that every once in a while, periodically, his girlfriend would grow sullen, untalkative, instead of simply having a conversation about whatever was bothering her. And from my perspective, I felt that it was only a matter of time before my really cool boyfriend would get bored of me and dump me. So I might as well just fast forward to that point instead of hanging around for the inevitable. We got into an absolutely huge fight in the middle of New York City. And I remember we were sitting at this diner called Isidora's. It used to be one of Anthony's favorite diners before he went vegan. His favorite thing to get there was the bagel and egg sandwich. And he ordered his bagel and egg sandwich, and we were sitting in silence at one of these card tables on the second floor of this diner. And I refused to look at him or talk to him, and he sat there eating his sandwich rather contentedly. And finally, we start talking about what was bothering me, only I didn't even have the wherewithal or the self-awareness to really call it what it was, which was jealousy. I remember saying to him during the middle of that conversation, I didn't think that I had the strength to be the kind of woman he needed in his life. And really, I threw that gauntlet hoping that he would pick it up and say, no, Joanne, I think you are the kind of woman who has the strength to be in a relationship with me. But he didn't. In about 10 days, we had another fight. This time it happened in the middle of a convenience store in Naperville, Illinois. I honestly don't even remember what triggered this argument, but I can remember feeling extremely insecure and assuming once again that this boyfriend was losing interest in me. And eventually I said, maybe we should just break up. And of course, the only reason I said that was because I was hoping to hear from him, no, of course not. I will never break up with you. But that's not what happened. He actually agreed and said, you're right, we should break up. And at that point, I wished so hard that I could take it back, but I couldn't take it back. I'm telling you guys, I had zero pride. It's embarrassing, it's cringy, it's pathetic. But again, faced with the prospect of losing Anthony for the rest of my life, I didn't care about my pride. At one point, I threw my arms around him. I can still smell the laundry detergent from his yellow shirt as I pressed my face into his chest and I started sobbing. Please, please don't do this. And he didn't even muster the strength to put his arms around me. Instead, he put his hands on my shoulders and he pushed me away from him. The next day, I wrote him a 5-page single-spaced typewritten letter that identified all of the many reasons we shouldn't break up, because that's what I do. I'm a trial lawyer, right? I got a trial lawyer out of this situation. He interrupted me and he told me it was no use. I started sobbing and crying again, begging him to reconsider, and he said once more, you have to stop. I realized that not only was nothing I did ever going to work, I was actually embarrassing myself, that he was actually embarrassed for me, so I stopped. I did a little bit of research on the internet while we were broken up. I don't know if you've ever heard of these attachment styles. It's essentially the way that we interact and relate to the people outside of us, and how much of that is influenced by the safety or lack of safety you felt when you were growing up. It turns out that I have an anxious attachment style. The default setting in my brain is always assuming that the person who is in my life will eventually leave my life. And that's what I assumed about Anthony. I was overanalyzing all of our conversations, all of our interactions for signs that he would leave me. I was irrationally jealous anytime he gave another woman even 5 minutes of his time. I required constant and regular affirmation of his affection for me, particularly when I was feeling insecure. To wit, I would create artificial distance between the two of us, sometimes literal distance, like I would literally move away from him with the hope that he would bridge that gap and prove to me that he was going to stick around. I'm going to pause here to say that there's really no point in either judging me or judging him, certainly, about our interactions. When you're in love with someone and you've committed to a relationship with that person, a lot of the discussion about what's right or what's wrong kind of goes out the window. You've already committed to be with each other, which means that what's right and what's wrong is far less important than what's effective. This is not effective behavior. It put way too much burden on him to not only recognize when I was having one of these episodes, but then to do all of the emotional labor to bridge the gap that I artificially manufactured as a test for him. If you want to get Freudian about it, I was simply reliving the moments of my childhood when my own parents didn't show up for me, and I was hoping to prove that Anthony was different. The hardest part about being broken up with somebody that you really care about is the idea that you may never be with them again. During that time, all of my girlfriends, of course, they swarmed the way they should, and they'd say all these things. Oh, you're too good for him. He was never good enough for you anyway. None of it made me feel better. So one night I went out, I got all decked out in this really cute black dress. I went to my favorite Korean bar with a bunch of girlfriends, and I remember I was sitting on the stool at the bar and I was kind of quietly by myself. And one of my friends, she sat down and she said, hey, I'm sorry to hear about you and Anthony. I decided to tell her how I felt, that every single morning waking up to the idea that I might never be with him again was absolute torture. Of course, I was expecting Grace to say all of the things that my other girlfriends were saying, but she didn't. Instead, she just sort of listened to me. She paused. She kind of looked at her hands for a second, and without even looking up, she said to me, yeah, that really sucks. when you're no longer with somebody with whom you shared such an important connection. And out of all the things that anyone said to me during that whole miserable chapter in my life, that one acknowledgement of my feelings, I'm not going to tell you that it cured me of my heartbreak, just made me feel more comfortable sitting in my heartbreak. A few weeks after that conversation with Grace at that Korean bar, Anthony and I got back together, and I wore that dress on Valentine's Day on a date with Anthony. But that is a different story.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm just going to go to our page and go dig up more story. There's a follow up on this story, but this story is really juicy, and I like the conversation it's bringing over anxious attachment style of relationship and even the way you interact with other people. So I have so much to say about this, but I want to know your own thought down in the comment section. But please keep it respectful as always. Here on this channel, we're allowed to disagree, but we do it in a respectful way. So go on and share your thought. So here's my thought on this. Well, I'm really excited to talk about this. I would say I kind of have, or will I say I kind of have like the anxious attachment style. And doing my research and all that, before I go on, I want to say I'm not a doctor or a therapist or anything, so I'm not diagnosing anything, and I'm not diagnosed with it. It's just something that, for my research and everything, I noticed that is a pattern I worked with, and I've worked on it. So for my story, before I get into the anxious attachment style thing, for my story, what I got is that first off, do the healing, do your work, know yourself, know who you are, know what you are, and what you want. I'd say now that I say this a lot in a lot of my videos, but some people sometimes may not get it. Think, oh, Destiny just saying. When I say like do the healing, because by the time you've healed your trauma, and what makes you thick and what triggers you and all that, like the anxious attachment style, what triggers you usually is when people don't give you people growing up with your parents, people around you, nobody was giving you that attention, and in your head you always feel like everybody is going to leave, so you're always anxious. And when you see somebody that you feel like you connect with, you are clinging or so tight to the person, like, I don't want to lose this person in my head, but I'm going to do some tests to see if this person is going to be like the others and leave me and don't pay attention to me. So that's the summary of what I got from the whole attachment, anxious attachment. So when you do the healing, like I always talk, when you do the trauma healing and heal your inner child, do your trauma healing, it helps you to identify that and say, you know what, this is a pattern of me that is not healthy or healthy, whatever way, and say, you know what, I need to work on it or I need to improve it. And when you heal your trauma, this helps you to identify who you are. And when you know who you are, just like you know, okay, you have anxious attachment and somebody is trying to play you in the way that you shouldn't play, you can easily identify when you are the problem in the dynamic. You can say, oh, yeah, I go again. Like, I am a perfectionist like, not even growing up. I am still a perfectionist. I like things done a certain way, and it is what it is. I'm a first daughter, and I have things to be done a certain way. And I got to realize that in my life, I do everything myself. I can't stand somebody doing something for me, because that fear of they're not going to do it to the way I want it really gives me a lot of anxiety and make me really anxious. But I will still do it because it makes me really anxious. But seeing my therapist and be able to figure out that I am a perfectionist, it kind of helped me that now I'm kind of I intentionally do the work where I leave certain things for certain people to like, oh, come do it and all that. There was a time in my life where I was the one cleaning my house from top to bottom. It was exhausting, but I like my house clean. Leaving my house for somebody to clean, I feel they don't clean it as much as I want to. So I will go around like picking things about it. But now, because I now identify, this is why I say knowing who you are, because I now identify that I am a perfectionist, I now have a cleaning lady that comes once a week, and when I see certain things that tick me, because I see the tiny little things, spikes on that, on the tiny corners, I can pick it out. That's the perfectionist in me. And I will just point out, like, you know what, I need you to clean this place better, and all that, and all that. And this has actually made my life a lot easier and better. But that's one thing that before I would do everything, including cooking. I can't even say I'll cook the food, I'll do the prepping by myself because I want to control everything. I am a perfectionist. So this is where when you do the healing, you know who you are, you know what you are, okay? And then that now helps you to navigate your life, to know what you want in your life, who you want in your life, the type of people you want in your life, the type of people you want surrounded around you, and the people that will trigger those things out of you and bring the worst out of you. I'm still in my healing journey. I'm still in my getting to know me better, trying to be a better self of myself, like just trying to improve myself. But I really feel like that helps in dynamic like this, in relationship like this. I'm really interested in that story, like so much. I didn't really like. It was a raw story. I listened to it with you guys live, like I was reacting to it without listening to it before. And when it comes to anxious attachment, I feel like I personally I had that. I am, like I said, I'm knowing myself. I'm beginning to know myself and what I want and things I need and things who I am and all that. I feel like I have that anxious attachment because I was that child that was not paid attention to, and I always feel like everybody's going to leave me, and I always feel like I am alone. And you see the silent treatment thing she talked about, the physically keeping distance, those were some of the things I did. And in bottom line, I would say when you know who you are, as like I've always said, it just helps you to navigate these things. So now this time around, when I'm with somebody, not just even romantic partnership, even with friendship and all that, I get really anxious leaving people leaving me, and sometimes I'll go on the front just to get it out of the way and say, okay, I left first before this person will leave me and all that. And it wasn't a healthy situation for myself because I broke up amazing friendships and relationships that shouldn't have, okay? Because I always feel like people are leaving anyway, so. And when I have somebody, I just want to cling, like I will cling on to them so much that it's almost like I'm suffocating them. I'm not making excuses for a relationship or my own relationship with people around me, but it's better for you to identify that. And when you identify that and you have somebody or you're in a romantic relationship with anybody, it's good for you to have that conversation with a person, especially when the person too is very open and honest. There's one thing I always say here on this channel. I really wish that we as human beings stop playing mind games, especially when it comes to romantic relationship and even friendships. People stop playing mind games on, oh, how I can play this person, how I don't offend this person, and everybody is honest and authentic to who they are, and what they want from this relationship or this dynamic. And I feel like that will cut the overhead time of certain things. And I know when sometimes you have this type of trait, sometimes you are in denial, you don't want to accept that this is who you are, this is what you are. But like I said, doing the work just helped in doing all that. I really like this video. Let me know down in the comment section if you've ever experienced anxious attachment, or this is you, or you know somebody that is. Let me know your own thought about this down in the comment section. Love to know what you think about it. Anyway, guys, go on and share this video with somebody that you want to be part of the conversation, because that's what we do here. We have banging conversation. So go ahead and share this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, smash the like button, because this helps YouTube to push out my content for more people to see, and that'll be you supporting this channel and this girl. With that all said, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Deuces.